All right, so what I want to do is go back through the other problems that I didn't go over in part one. I apologize, but let's go ahead and take a look at those. So we want to use, in this first problem, use leading coefficient test to determine the end behavior of the graph of this function. So here's what I know. All right, I know that my leading coefficient, all right, and I do COEFF to show coefficient, is positive 1, okay? I also know that my degree is even, is 4, all right? So this is positive, this is even, okay? And so with that, what I know is that my graph is going to go up to the left and up to the right. All right, and that's all you know, I usually just draw this picture, but you'd want to write up to the left and up to the right. Okay, and that's it. All right, same thing with the second one. All right, my leading coefficient. Now, here's what I need to do on this one. Okay, this one's a little bit different because this one's factored. Okay. And what I need to do is look at 2x cubed, x, and x. If I multiply all those things together, okay, if we were to multiply this whole thing out to get my leading coefficient, I would get 2x cubed times x times x. Okay, I'm just concerned about that first term. So this is going to give me 2x to the 5th power, okay, and that's my leading term. So my leading coefficient is going to be 2, and my degree is going to be 5. Now, my leading coefficient of 2, this is positive, okay? A degree of 5, this is odd. All right, so that's what I've got, all right? So now what I know is that my graph is going to behave like this, okay? So it's going to be down to the left and then up to the right. All right, and that's all we're doing, okay? All right, let's take a look at the next problem, okay? And on this one, it says it wants us to find all of the zeros of f of x, okay? So the first thing I want to do is set all of this equal to 0. So 0 is equal to x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8. Now, on this one, what I can do is I can factor this, okay? And that's kind of what I'm looking for, all right? So I'm going to put parentheses around this and this. And so we can factor out an x squared out of that factor, and that leaves me with x plus 2. Here I can factor out a negative 4, and that's going to leave me with x plus 2. Now, if I factor out x plus 2 and x plus 2, that's going to give me x plus 2, and then we're left with x squared minus 4. Now, I can continue to factor x squared minus 4 because that's difference of squares. So I'm going to get 0 equals x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x minus 2, okay? And so my zeros, okay, I'm going to set each of these equal to 0, okay? Now, realize this, okay? I'm going to rewrite this up here. I'm going to write this as x plus 2 quantity squared times x minus 2. Okay, so my zeros, all right, I'm going to take x plus 2 quantity squared, set that equal to 0, and then I'm going to set, and let me do that up here. Okay, I'm going to 0 equals x plus 2 quantity squared, and then x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so when I do this, I can take the square root of both sides. So I get 0 is equal to x plus 2, subtract 2 from both sides, and I'm going to get that negative 2 is equal to x. Now this one has multiplicity 2 because I'm squaring that, okay? So I want to just put that there, and then let's add 2 to both sides here. So I get x is equal to positive 2, okay? So my zeros are here and here. All right, so those are my zeros, and that's where my graph crosses the x-axis. Okay, find all the zeros of this function. Same thing, what I want to do is set it equal to 0. And I get x to the 4th minus 4x squared. So I'm going to factor out an x squared, and that's going to leave me with x squared minus 4, okay? And so I'm going to get this. I'm going to get 0 is equal to x squared. X squared minus 4 can be factored again to x plus 2 times x minus 2. All right, so now I'm going to set each of these, all these factors equal to 0 and solve. So I've got x squared equals 0. I've got x plus 2 equals 0. And I've got x minus 2 equals 0. All right, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides here. So I have x is equal to 0. Now this had multiplicity too, okay, because I'm squaring it. All right, so it's important that we see that. Over here, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and I get that x is equal to negative 2. Here, I'm going to add 2 to both sides, so I get x is equal to positive 2. All right, and that's my solution, okay, and that's what I got. All right, let's go ahead and let's look at the next page. Okay, so on this first problem, it says find all the zeros of f of x. And this is going to be negative 4 times x plus 1/2 quantity squared times x minus 5 cubed. And give the multiplicity of each zero. State whether the graph crosses the x-axis or touches the x-axis and turns around at each zero, okay? So let's do this, all right? So I'm going to set 0 equal to negative 4 times x plus 1/2 quantity squared. And then multiply by x minus 5, and that is going to be cubed, okay? So here's what I got. I'm going to divide each side by negative 4, okay, to move that over. And what's going to happen is that's still going to remain 0, okay? So I'm going to get x plus 1/2 squared and then x minus 5 cubed. All right, so I'm going to set these. I've got this factored, so I'm going to set each of these factors equal to 0. So I've got 0 is equal to x plus 1/2 quantity squared, okay? I'm going to set 0 equal to x minus 5 quantity cubed. Now, when I do this, I'm going to take the square root of both sides, okay? And I'm going to take the cube root of both sides over here. All right, so this is just going to give me x is equal to, or 0 is equal to x plus 1/2. Here I'm going to get 0 is equal to x minus 5. Now, as a result, okay, I'm going to subtract 1/2 from both sides. And so I get negative 1/2 is equal to x, okay? Now this one has multiplicity 2. Means this is going to touch / bounce off the x-axis. Okay, x-axis. Now here I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I get that x is equal to 5. Now my multiplicity here is 3. So on this one, we're going to cross, okay, cross the x-axis. X-axis. All right? And that's what we're doing. Okay? All right, now on the next one, what I want to do is use the 5-step strategy to graph my function f of x. So, first things first, okay, I want to find my end behavior. Okay, so my leading value is 3, so 1 times x cubed. So that's my leading term. So my leading coefficient, okay, is positive. My degree is odd, all right? So what we're going to do is our end behavior is going to go down to the left, up to the right, okay? And that's what we've got on that one. The next thing I want to do, so that's the first part, I want to factor this, okay? So if I factor, we're going to get f of x is equal to, let's factor out an x squared, and we're left with x minus 3. Okay, so this one isn't too bad. And this is going to let us find our zeros. Okay, so our zeros are going to be x. I'm going to set all this equal to x to 0. So x squared times x minus 3 equals 0. So if I set x squared equal to 0, and I set x minus 3 equal to 0, here's what we're going to get. All right, we're going to get, let's take the square root of both sides here. I'm going to get that x equals 0. This is going to have a multiplicity of 2, so we're going to bounce here, okay, or touch. All right. So that's one of my zeros. Okay, add 3 to both sides, and we get that x is equal to 3. This has multiplicity 1, so we're going to cross the x-axis at that point, okay? And that looks like it's it. Let's go ahead and find, so those are, these are my x-intercepts, okay? But let's also find our y-intercept. Okay, and when I find my y-intercept, what I want to do is find f of 0. And so that's just going to be 0 cubed minus 3 times 0. And so that's just going to give me 0 minus 0, which is 0. All right, so my x-intercept is also coincidentally my y-intercept. So let's go ahead and plot those points real quick. I've got this point here, and I've got this point here. Now remember that at x equals 0, we want to bounce off, okay? So I've got this graph here. We're going to do this, and we're going to bounce off here, and then we're going to continue through x equals 3. Now let me graph this on Desmos real quick just to verify that we have this one correct. All right, and so as I look at this graph, okay, notice how we have the same general shape. Now this one dips down a little bit further, but I'm not too concerned about this. I'm more concerned about you guys being able to graph this, and just getting the general shape of the graph, okay? And that's, ultimately what I'm concerned with. So we did it right, okay? And so let's go ahead and apply this, and let's start working on the homework. See you a lot. Not see you a lot. See you in a bit. Blah.